So the spooky month is almost over already, and I honestly kind of forgot, but I finally decided to do a horror game platinum before it's too late. And today I got the platinum trophy for Resident Evil 7. This is one of the best games in the Resident Evil franchise, and the only one I have so far ever beaten. Now it is also one of the only ones I've ever played, but we don't talk about that. Anyways, the platinum trophy for Resident Evil 7 has 38 trophies included within it, and it takes a minimum of 3 playthroughs with a 5 out of 10 difficulty included. Now the only reason that is a 5 out of 10 difficulty is because you are required to beat it on the hardest difficulty called MADHOUSE, which is indeed harder than my penis. So the game begins with an opening cutscene.
What did he say?
Setting up the story with Mia sending Ethan a video about her job or something. Also, I already had 9 trophies to start off with since I had played like an hour of the game a long time ago. The game then has Ethan driving to Mia's supposed location, and this is where it all begins. For the first playthrough of the game, the objective is to gather every single collectible, which includes the antique coins, Mr. Everywhere bobbleheads, and then also the files. Anyways, we go to the house nearby, which is a perfect representation of Southern America, and the most clean house in the swamps. In fact, I think Shrek's house might actually be cleaner than this place. But this first part of the game, you sort of just wander around and get scared by the creaking of the house, which is enough to make a little white boy like myself scared already. There's a system of videotapes in this game where you can watch them on the TVs, and you also get to play in them at the same time. So we yet again break the 4th wall, and after I finished watching this video that ended with some quite scary things, we find out that there is a secret passage nearby and take it as you do. While we are down in the sewers of this house, we find Mia, who was just vibing in a prison cell. Now I don't know if this is her choice for life, but if it is, this girl is much kinkier than I imagined. Then again, she is obsessed with Daddy, and Ethan had my exact reaction to it.
Daddy's coming. We need to go.
Huh? Daddy?
We need to go now!
Okay, Mia, I don't know who Daddy is, but if it's this guy right here, I am not turned on, just simply afraid. But before Daddy touched us, we actually got to fight Mia since she is completely and utterly possessed by the dog inside of her. Sadly, she can't control it and will just flip out on us and even chop our hand off because she's just a bully. This whole gruesome fighting, however, ends when we duel her in the attic. And I actually did it first try. Oh my god, yes. This is a first. Then again, I am playing on the easiest difficulty. But when we do this fight in the hardest, it is much more annoying. Oh, and there's Daddy again. Honestly, he might not be that bad of a guy. At least he still makes the whole family eat dinner at the table with each other. Sadly, he cuts off his son's arm, but it's all love, so it's okay. After we got out of our chair from dinner, the next objective is to just try and find a way out of this hellhole. I didn't look up anything on how to do this, however, so a few seconds later, I ended up just fighting with Daddy again. And the guy really wanted to just mess with me, so he toyingly placed down a healing potion right in front of me and taunted my desperate ass. But not nearly as desperate as OnlyFans girls though, so it's okay. After I healed myself, I then ran over to this hatch on the floor and barely escaped from Daddy, making it to the first safe place in the game. These are amazing. You can just sit there and not have to worry about being eaten alive at all times by angry men. Speaking of angry men, we then got introduced to this cop who was just chilling outside the house. And for whatever reason, the man was extremely sus of me, even though I am trying to explain to him that I'm literally being hunted alive by people at the current moment in time. I didn't want to say it, but this felt racially motivated. Just kidding, he's the homie and gave me a whole knife to protect myself. We then had to go meet him in the garage, so I did that. Sadly, he got snuck up on by Daddy, and Daddy, he dismembered his head. I won't show this though because that's just speedrunning age restriction on YouTube. We then got to fight Daddy in the garage, and I made the mistake of trying to actually fight him with my gun, when all you really had to do was hop in the car and then hit him with it. This is actually the only real good way to beat him because vehicle manslaughter is a lot of fun, and the game wants to show you that early on in your life. Daddy, however, came back to life after crashing our car we just got, and then he died again when the car blew up. Whew. We can now relax. Just kidding, he comes back in off.
Oh my god!
Sadly, I don't think this is the end of Daddy, and my butthole is clenched in anticipation for his return. So now that all the fighting is done, we are now entering the first real big puzzle part of the game. It's not that hard once you know the map and what to do, but we got to go to the main house, which has a ton of new areas, items, and possible brain aneurysms if you get confused. I also got my first new trophy of the day when I'm in the processing area of the game, which is just the basement. There's a ton of mutated enemies down here who are insanely annoying, creepy, and hard to kill because they aren't really alive. But the trophy I got was for taking someone's head clean off their shoulders, and that is actually the only good way to eliminate these enemies to begin with. I then made it to the end of the basement areas and found the last dog head I needed to open the door to continue the game's story. But while grabbing it, Daddy comes back from the dead and we get an even more difficult boss fight. For some reason, the game also felt it had to give us chainsaws on this fight, and Daddy ran at me with one, but I ducked under it, which was a trophy. I then grabbed the chainsaw for myself and sort of made Daddy become not alive again. Now that ending was pretty gruesome, so I'll save your Christian eyes again, but just imagine a man being split open like how your girl's legs fly open.
What?
Anyways, we used the chainsaw to get out of the room, and it sadly broke, so we won't be able to use it anymore. Truly the worst outcome possible. I then had enough items to open the door and get out into fresh air, but I'm confused as to why these people had such a door contraption to begin with. It's kind of a weird conversation starter. I think the fact that you can't die would be suffice enough. Anyways, I walked over to the trailer safe zone, and while there, I rubbed one out, but also popped a perk and got a trophy for that apparently. Also, I can now see the voices in my head. It's amazing.
That's what I'm saying.
We then got to head back over to the old house, which is just the other main area in the game. This place, however, instead of having big black men everywhere, it just has flies everywhere. So I don't know which is worse, but I got a trophy for shooting my shotgun into a big group of flies, getting a multi-kill. I also found a backpack in another safe zone and got a trophy after picking it up. And this was a huge help because I constantly struggled with inventory space this whole game. You know, you think a man who's had both his arm and leg cut off would be able to just carry anything he wants, but I guess the world doesn't work like that. There was also another trophy for just knifing all these bugs off of an item locker, and this is probably the worst way to get them off, which is why they made us suffer for it, and got a trophy. I then found both components for the flamethrower item, which is a super great tool in both World War II and in killing insects in this game. So after ensuing extinction on all the flies, I went down a little passageway and ran into Mia, as a matter of fact. And her new boyfriend just walked in and stole her away. We now know what she has been doing these past few years. Typical woman moment. Speaking of woman, I ran into what you could call one, and she slammed the door on me. That was Daddy's wife, by the way, and I think she has some sort of STD because she has bugs literally crawling out of her, which is what I imagine Lana Rhodes has happening also behind the scenes. Now that is pretty gross, so I decided it's smart to just fight her and try to rid the world of such sinful creations. And after burning her alive and then using all my weapons, she finally gave up and just ran at me to make the first move. Now usually I'd be all for this, but just have a look at that face. Oh my god. But we got a trophy, so it's okay, I'll recover. I then tried to go upstairs in this place and was denied almost as hard as that one girl did to me. But this time I got to burn the dumb bitch alive and bury her in the dirt, so I had a great time personally. We then got to go into the room and had a phone call with Zoe Baker, who was one of the family's daughters and also sort of diseased or possessed or whatever. But she is like our guide and help this game. She explains to us we need to make a serum or a cure for the disease thing everyone has. But to get the items for it, we need to go and actually kill the nasty lady we just fought twice. So we did just that, and during this boss fight, I attempted to do a missable trophy on it. But for the life of me, I could not get it, and I actually died for the first time. But I got the trophy in sync with my death, so it truly wasn't all in vain. Thankfully, the respawn put me back into the action right away, and this fight wasn't that bad at all in the easy difficulty, so I got rid of that woman without any more issues. Then we just had to place the lantern gotten from her on this lantern post, and we're allowed to enter a super creepy room sequence. I actually pooped my panties a little bit here, but it ended with us pulling the arm out of some creature in a hidden room, which was one of two parts we needed for the cure. Also, look at this child's legs. Who does she think she can scare? Not me, that's for sure. I then left the area finally and got that part of the story's trophy. I then got a phone call from Mia's supposed new guy friend, whatever that means, and he basically told me her boobs look great and I'm missing out. Also that there was going to be a surprise in my fridge. Now I swear, if I open this and it's not a brand new Corvette C8, I'm gonna cry. It wasn't. It most definitely wasn't. Please leave a like and subscribe. Anyways, the new objective is to hunt down Mia's new boyfriend and eliminate him from this world. The first step was to go to the police officer's body, which is back where we fought Daddy in the last boss fight. And after reaching inside him in a non-sexual way, I found a whole ass key, which is used to open every door we couldn't before. I then went and found the blue key card and did this video that Mia's boyfriend left for us. And in it, there was a trophy for completing the video in under 5 minutes. This isn't very hard once you know what to do. So after watching some random video on YouTube, I did indeed know exactly what to do and finished it within 5 minutes for the trophy. I then found the red key card after, and opened this locked door with both. We then watched a homemade video, and it was so poorly edited that it blew up the entire TV right in my face. The next part of this game featured an introduction into mines attached to both the walls, floors, and ceilings, which just blow up in your face if you hit the tripwire. We also had this boss fight with Lizzo, and I'm shocked that she made an appearance in this game. I thought she was still busy with her lawsuits, but I guess not. After beating Lizzo up, we then found the key code to this locked door we couldn't get into earlier. I then tried to open it, but Mia's boyfriend yelled at me and made me put everything I had into the item box nearby and enter completely naked. We then got to reenact the birthday party video, but in real life, that we did a few minutes ago. This time, however, you can skip a lot of the parts in it and just speedrun the thing. Also, you don't need to flood the room with oil this time, so you don't actually die. After that, you basically make your way to Mia and Zoe, who are both tied up in this room, and after freeing them both, Zoe then makes the cure for us, and only has enough for 2 of them, which would have been perfect, but Daddy shows up again, and Lord have mercy, that Winter Bulk must have gone wild because he looks unrecognizable. And yeah, this was another boss fight section. I wouldn't necessarily say it was harder than the other ones, but it was more annoying because you have to hit very specific spots in his body to do damage. After popping all of his eyes, he ends up dying, and in usual fashion was just playing a prank on us and comes back from the dead for more. But this time I put the syringe cure inside of him, and I guess he was cured from the disease. Either that, or he just died. Either way, that's all for Daddy this game. We are then on a dock, and I was supposed to pick who to cure with the remaining syringe. But I wasn't aware of that, so I just awkwardly sat there watching the 2 girls sway back and forth. Eventually, I chose Mia because it was the first option that came on my screen, so no hard feelings. Zoe was a bit mad, but she just let it go and walked away. And then we were off on the rest of our journey. But we were sadly stopped right away by the creatures from beneath, and then got the trophy pop for finishing that part of the story. This next part of the game pretty much had a lot of flashbacks to Mia before she got infected, and it's all from this little girl supposedly. Basically, we just ran around this wrecked ship for hours finding items, and I got numerous trophies within this mess. So it's finally the last mission now, and we made the ultimate cure inside of this device here for the little girl we saw earlier. The final area of this game had so many enemies in it, it was insane. But since we were on the easy difficulty, my genius solution to this was just run past all of them and act like they don't exist. So not only did I make it out easily, but all the enemies in the game now have low confidence. Anyways, before the final fight of the game, I found the very last collectible I needed and got the final collectible trophy, thank God. Next, we confronted the little girl and put the cure inside of her. We then got a big plot twist which showed us that it was actually the old lady the whole time. I knew it.
Cap.
Oh yeah, and her fight was surprisingly easy compared to previous ones. This is probably because she just has a giant face and her hitbox is quite big. Almost like the gaping hole in your mother. So yeah, we beat her, and then the game basically ended with us being saved by some men with helicopters, which is sick. I also got 2 trophies for beating the game, and getting 1 of 2 endings for it. Since I did such a great job at not missing any trophies within my first playthrough, all I had to do now was speedrun the game in under 4 hours, while it's not healing or opening the item boxes, and beat it on the hardest difficulty.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
I decided, however, to do the speedrun first so I could quickly get that and not forget anything too much. Doing the speedrun for this game is quite easy in all honesty, especially since they give you plenty of time to do it. I did forget a few things though, so that took me a little bit more time than needed, and I also did die like 4 times throughout, so it wasn't a perfect run by any means. But my finishing time for the speedrun playthrough ended at 2 hours and 52 minutes, so I had over an hour of leeway time. I also got 4 trophy pops at the end in addition. Obviously 1 for the speedrun, 1 for not using item boxes, another for not using healing items, and finally for getting the second ending since I saved Zoe while I was in the speedrun. Oh lord, it's that time. Madhouse difficulty. I'm not gonna lie, this difficulty definitely drove me mad. And that's not even a joke, because this playthrough was not funny at all. In fact, when I die and look back at my life, I'll probably get forced to watch this 7 hours of my life over again, and it will be what made me go to hell because of how many times I cussed and raged at when I died. So let's just highlight some of the worst parts of this playthrough. First, it's the fight with Mia in the attic right away in the intro. Obviously, she has a lot more health since it's the hardest difficulty, but nobody mentions you had to literally hit every single shot on her head while fighting her here. I died over and over and over, until the point where I literally questioned what I was doing with my life. But honestly, it's the perfect way to expose your holes to how much pain this difficulty is. Obviously, I did it eventually after many tries, and to top it off, I also eliminated her on my very last bullet left in my gun. So is it actually just poetic justice after all? Another really annoying thing in this difficulty is the saving feature. It hardly autosaves in the first half of the game's story, so you have to be very careful not to die, and to also use your cassette tapes to save in the right time, or else you'll be forced to replay it all essentially if you die. However, a benefit of doing this trophy last is that you get a ton of weapons by default in your item box, like the circular saw, which can block attacks very well and does a ton of damage also. Anyways, the next really annoying part was when I made it back to the old house area with Daddy's wife, the STD bug lady. And I swear, trying to fight her before the boss fights when she's just wandering around is literally harder than the boss fights themselves. I had to reset over and over because the bitch would just not die. And the dumb insects in this difficulty act like it's almost winter and do insane amounts of damage on you, so you literally have no chance of killing her without taking an absurd amount of damage, or just using everything you have. Eventually, I did sneak past her though, and got what I needed to have more fights with her. And on the first boss fight with her when you're underground, I actually beat it in like under a minute, which was just weird since I felt like it shouldn't have been that quick. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
And obviously the real boss fight with her when she crawls all around was awful. And it wasn't even bad in terms of being hard to avoid her attacks. It was just hard because she tanks damage like how I imagine Lizzo shoves food into her face. By the time I beat her, which took multiple tries, I had nearly nothing left to my name aside from bad jokes. The fight literally took all of my ammo from me, and I was honestly pissed because I didn't know what to do anymore since I had nothing to fight with. Also, that fight ended with me winning while on literally 1 health. Like, if you threw a paper airplane at me and it hit, I would have gone into cardiac arrest and died. The final boss fight with Daddy was also really bad, but it was mostly my fault since I wasn't blocking at the start and missed a lot of shots. Granted, it also took a lot of hits to kill him, which got ridiculous very fast. But it's honestly not that bad if you know what to do, and I found that using the circular saw was somehow good. I guess Daddy likes it when you touch him. I actually got a trophy before the ending though for finding all the antique coins in Madhouse difficulty. They added in a lot more of these for whatever reason, but I can't complain since they aren't that hard to find. But this final area was definitely a challenge. Actually, the enemies leading to the final boss were the only hard thing about it. I just didn't have any more ammo or explosives by this point, so fighting these 2 big guys at the same time felt impossible for a while. And I lost it. Like, I lost my mind. That isn't a joke. I literally went insane here. It took me over an hour to get past these 2 guys, and by the time I actually beat them both, I nearly cried because it was so frustrating. But after that, we did the final fight, which wasn't that hard at all for whatever reason. I don't know why they didn't make it harder. And then I got the glorious trophy pops and the platinum in addition. I honestly had a super fun time in this game, even though it was actually quite hard. Also, I get scared super easily playing games, so the fact that I made it all the way through this 3 times really grew some hairs on my chest and my ball sack.